Guys, welcome back to the Run the Gauntlet podcast. Week 2 is in the books. And today we're going to be discussing a couple quarterbacks that I really like, a couple of notable players from Week 2, and some buy low, sell high trade candidates.
What's up, guys? Justin Alfiero here, Jimmy LeBone next to me. This is Run the Gauntlet's Fantasy Football Podcast, as always working in partnership with the Game Changer Sports Network. Hey, the greatest quarterback of all time is officially here, and I'm really excited about it. But before we get into that, because the greatest quarterback of all time is a huge discussion, you know what I'm saying? Let's just get into the injuries.
Save the best for last.
It's going to be first. Week 2 injuries. LeSean McCoy had a rib injury this week, and of course the other things that have come up with LeSean McCoy might be a problem as well, in the case that the rib injury holds him out or his off-the-field issues. Marcus Murphy, someone that I have not heard of, backup running back, apparently would be expected to get more work than Chris Ivory, reports say.
Really?
Right now, yeah. Joe Mixon had knee surgery, 2 to 4 weeks. Hopefully you own Gio Bernard if you have him. If not, he's not on a roster, guys. Gio Bernard, you have a waiver budget, and you're in need. Get Gio Bernard and pay some money for it, because whoever has him starting for these next few weeks is going to be in great shape.
Even if you're first on your waiver order, he is definitely worth taking that last spot in your waiver wire order.
Probably just a small amount of people, because they listen to the show. That would be less in their waiver order.
True. Yeah, no, those guys are obviously first.
Dalvin Cook was cramping up in that game, so he left, did not come back at a certain point, but he's expected to be fine this week. Mike Wallace injured his ankle. He was carted off the field, came back in a walking boot. Of guys not named Nelson Aguilar on this team right now, Kamar Aiken, DeAndre Carter, and Shelton Gibson exist
It's also
at the
worth
wide receiver
noting,
position.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off. It's also worth noting that Corey Clement and Darren Sproles will obviously get work out of the backfield, but Darren Sproles is also hurt.
Yes, Darren Sproles is also hurt, which brings us to Jay Ajayi, I suppose, who injured his back, came back into the game, and it's just a back injury. You know, these are just things that are just, you don't always hear about the back injury. It's a very delicate injury, so I guess just something to keep focused on Ajayi going forward, because maybe they just don't want to give him the workload with that back injury.
Look at David Wright, man. I know it's baseball. It's not, the wear and tear is obviously different compared to football, but that man's career is literally over to the point where he has to have like a sympathy game that the Mets are going to actually activate him when they probably shouldn't activate him because his back's so messed up.
Sympathy.
Granted, I love David Wright, man. He was the Mets captain when that happened, and DeGrom was happening. That was supposed to be the revitalizing of the team.
And we live in New York too, right? So I was growing up a Mets fan. I don't like them as much now, but David Wright was the guy.
Yeah.
In that moment.
And his back injury literally crippled his career. A back injury, there are 2 things you don't screw with: a sprained ankle and a back. And I'm scared of that with Ajayi. I think he'll be fine because he played. But it's worth noting.
Well,
it's time to discuss the greatest quarterback of all time.
It is time to discuss our buy low and sell high candidates.
Oh, I'm so excited.
And in that, I shall start with a sell high. That would be the greatest quarterback of all time, Patrick Mahomes.
Yo,
Guys, hold on. Stop it. Patrick Mahomes, guys, just for the record, has already played his best football of the entire season. It already happened. So if he was on your bench or you started him, that's great. So you have 2 choices. You can keep him and start him, which I would not blame anyone for. Or you could trade for him and give up whatever ridiculous inflated price it is that you would have to pay for Patrick Mahomes right now. And if someone in your league is willing to pay it, I say you're better off getting rid of Patrick Mahomes for that price than keeping him and running him out.
582 yards, 10 touchdowns. He broke Peyton Manning's record when he was with the Denver Broncos for the most touchdowns in a 2-game span in NFL history. Mind you, he's played 3 games. Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
3 football games. This is the guy who Andy Reid, one of the greatest offensive minds in NFL history, that goes for his success with the Eagles, Super Bowl appearance, his success with the Chiefs. I'm not going to get into their postseason success. I could rant about that for some time. That also includes all of the plethora of offensive coordinators and head coaches that have come from the Andy Reid tree. Andy Reid is a brilliant football mind, and what does he do? What does Andy Reid do?
You tell me.
He trades up for Patrick Mahomes and gives up not 1, but 2 first-round picks to go up and get him.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes, in 2/3 of his career starts, has already made history. I'm not calling him the greatest of all time. I was
Who
saying
just did
that
it last year? Who just did what he's doing last year? Tell me who it is.
Nobody ever in the history of football has done what he's done.
Okay, not the same exact thing. Deshaun Watson was very similar, throwing more yards. Very, very similar to what Patrick Mahomes is doing this year. What is Deshaun Watson doing right now?
He's had a rough start.
He's having a rough start.
Yeah, he's had a rough start.
Would you say he's come down to earth because he's a young quarterback?
Yes. More films on him, absolutely.
Okay. By the way, can you tell me what Ryan Fitzpatrick's stats are this year?
Oh my God, he's balling out. He's a bad man. Back-to-back 400-yard games.
So as we speak today, the two best quarterbacks in the NFL are Patrick Mahomes and Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Why are we valuing
a two-week
sample size? I'm not saying Patrick Mahomes is not good. I am not saying he is not going to be good. What I am saying is that this was the best Patrick. This was it. He threw 6 touchdowns in a game. This is the best Patrick Mahomes that's going to happen all season, is this quick stretch. It's going to happen for 1 or 2 more games before he comes down to earth.
But will he hit 40?
Will he hit 40? If they already happened, he won't be worth. If he hits 40,
30
it will be because
games.
He's going to slow down. So listen, if he throws 4 and 3 touchdowns in the next 2 games, and all of a sudden he has 17, listen, he might throw 40, but what I'm saying is that 17 of them were in the first 4 games, so it's 40 touchdowns, but it doesn't help you the same way.
True.
So you get rid of him now, because odds are he doesn't do this. And if anyone's buying Patrick Mahomes at this and thinks he's this, there is no reason to not get rid of him and just get a different quarterback.
But what if he's half of what he's doing right now? That's still a top 10 fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, but what if someone's willing to give you really good receivers or a running back or something?
Dude, no, I agree with you. It's a really good sell high, buy high option. Like, it's definitely a player that if you're in a sticky quarterback situation right now, if you did your due diligence and waited on a quarterback in the draft, and maybe waited it around there too long, which isn't doing your due diligence.
And then drafted Patrick Mahomes?
No, and then didn't draft Patrick Mahomes because you thought, like, I don't know, Eli Manning was more the better option because he had Saquon Barkley.
Okay.
That was something I was talking about. Andy Dalton. You know, maybe if you have one of these guys, when Dalton's actually balling out, I gotta put some respect on the name.
He's not Patrick Mahomes right now.
He's not even Blake Bortles, but that's beside the point. But, like, Patrick Mahomes has upside I don't think we've seen enter the NFL in a very long time.
Yeah, see, and that's where I think you're wrong, because we've been in a generation of so many statistically unnecessary quarterbacks that to even propose that is already anointing Patrick Mahomes with an unfair expectation.
Yes, is it unfair expectation? It is unfair to already be comparing him to Peyton Manning with the Broncos and Drew Brees with the Saints.
Especially because Charlie Johnson. Listen, I am going to say this right now. I may just be dated. Maybe Charlie Johnson was a very good quarterback in 1965. Maybe he was one of the above-average quarterbacks.
But it doesn't matter. It was 50 years ago.
Listen, Fitzpatrick has 8. He's not that far off. It's 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, man, with Mahomes, I mean, people all of a sudden like, hey, he's like top 4 fantasy quarterback this year. It's like, chill. I mean, before I blow a gasket about Mahomes, do you have any other sell-high guys that you like right now?
Yes, I do. Josh Gordon.
Go for it.
Somebody is going to bite on Josh Gordon's potential, and Josh Gordon doesn't have that much potential. Josh Gordon is in order. The pecking order on the Patriots offense. I'm going to give it to you right now, the target share. The most unpredictable offense in fantasy football. I'm going to give it to you right here, right now. Spoiler alert. Rob Gronkowski.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Julian Edelman when he returns from suspension. Chris Hogan. James White. And Philip Dorsett. Josh Gordon has to be able to show up to work on time for a week and learn the Patriots playbook before I even consider him relevant. There is also the clause in the deal with the New England Patriots that if Josh Gordon is not active for 10 games this season, the Patriots get a draft pick from the Cleveland Browns. So why a team like the Patriots, who's always competing for a Super Bowl, in their right minds would even give away that film and that game plan? For what? Tom Brady is going to throw 350 yards with Cordero Patterson. They don't need Josh Gordon. They're just going to get a draft pick, and they're going to have his potential. Everyone seems to think Josh Gordon has boundfuls of still after 5 years.
Bill Belichick happens to think he has potential too. So I don't know who you want to side with.
But that's the thing. I feel like Bill Belichick and the Patriots will just wait. There's no rush. It's not like the Patriots. It's not like Tom Brady cares about his weapons.
And it's not like they're not going to win the division if they don't use Josh Gordon.
Yeah, so you might not even get 10 games out of this dude.
This is true.
Like, I think his upside is so capped by that. We might not see this guy active for 2-3 weeks. He has to learn the playbook. He has to learn the route tree. He has to develop chemistry with Brady. He has to show that he deserves to be on the Patriots, because the Patriots aren't just going to let him be on the Patriots.
This is true.
I understand his upside,
but the risk outweighs it.
Yes, and use that upside to sell him for a position of need, get your starting tight end, or get a running back that you could play. Josh Gordon, all you Gordon owners, all you guys that did what I told you not to do and draft him in the 4th round, fix your mistake.
Own it. It is very, very important to own it. The idea is that if you are wrong, guys, just accept it. Don't be that guy who, oh man, there's players every year that get that treatment where it's just like some guy loves them, and like they just don't. You know what I'm saying? You have to go by what you're seeing in front of your face. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. It's just you could always be right again, but if you're wrong about a guy and you just hold on to him, you're just going to be wrong. And I think it's important to willingly just do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's one thing to hold on to a guy you were wrong about with a lot of trade value. I was wrong about Mike Williams, and I held on to Mike Williams all year last year because I didn't care because his value was irrelevant. He was a guy I was changing. It was a waiver.
You were literally dropping him and picking him up throughout the season.
Yeah, exactly. It's not Josh Gordon you could actually get a starting tight end for.
Exactly. Do
you have any buy low candidates?
Buy low? Yeah, I think I'm going to start with Corey Davis. Corey Davis, obviously, there was questions. I think the big question with Corey Davis coming into the season wasn't his talent, but just like the target share in Tennessee. Corey Davis, just worth noting, he's the only person on the Tennessee Titans with double-digit targets. He has 20. So he is outpacing these guys by a serious rate right now. And mind you, number 2 is Deion Lewis. So it's not even another receiver.
Yeah.
Corey Davis is going to dominate this receiving core in terms of targets, receptions, yards, maybe touchdowns, maybe not touchdowns, but I think Corey Davis is going to be the most productive receiver on this team. I think that has value if Mariota comes back and plays well, which is why I say get shares of him, because a number 1 wide receiver on any football team is worth owning, and if someone doesn't value him in such a way because his stats haven't reflected it, just go for it with Corey Davis.
100%. A personal buy low candidate I have is Amari Cooper.
Okay.
Amari Cooper is a guy with a stigma around him. Guys with stigmas around them are usually easy to trade. Usually, guys with stigmas, people don't trust. Amari Cooper just had 10 receptions on 10 targets and 100-plus yards the week after John Gruden calls out Derek Carr for not targeting Amari Cooper. Yeah. And he did so against Chris Harris Jr. of the Denver Broncos. That is an elite corner. Like, if there's any doubt about the Broncos this year, it's not their defense.
And Amari Cooper is someone I've been pretty critical of over the course of his career. That being said, what happened, while I did not watch that game, I do have to go back and look at the film before I give a truly valid opinion on it. Those numbers contradict every single problem I've ever had with Amari Cooper. I want to see in the game if he was making tough contested catches and making catches in traffic. These are the things I want to see when I watch the film. But in terms of the efficiency, that's 10 for 10. And Amari Cooper doesn't do that often. So
most receivers don't, man.
Well, I mean, obviously most receivers don't do that often, but I mean, even 8 for 10, 7 to 10 is pretty good for Amari Cooper. Really good.
Yeah, no, he's definitely, his catch-to-target ratio is not always the most efficient thing in the world.
Well, but it shows on the field, and that's always been my problem with him, is because he has problems with drops sometimes in traffic and things like that. But if that game he just looked like a different guy, the guy I know he can be, just the guy I feel like I've just waited slightly too long to see, given his amount of talent.
Yeah.
But then that's good for anyone who drafted Amari Cooper.
Absolutely.
Or anyone who trades for him.
That's the next thing, folks, because I don't know how long it's going to take for John Gruden and Derek Carr to find that Gruden's QB camp chemistry. But
they already had him on the show. Did you see his one with Derek Carr?
He loved Derek Carr, man.
Yeah.
That had to have been part of the
every
reason.
quarterback. I bet if you go back and watch Jamarcus Russell's, if that was even a thing.
I don't think it was, because I think he was still trying to
coach. He's still coaching. Sure.
Nah, but he popped for Christian Hackenberg, and he traded for Christian Hackenberg, so, there's his credibility right there. But in all seriousness, he was very right about Derek Carr. Derek Carr was an MVP candidate 2 years ago, and if Derek Carr was healthy, the Raiders might have had a deep postseason run that year, considering Connor Cook almost beat the Texans. Derek Carr would beat the Texans. But regardless, let's say the past is in the past. But when John Gruden and Derek Carr do figure each other out and they become comfortable with each other, you're only going to see that offense improve over the next year or two.
All right, so buy low on Amari Cooper. Kerryon Johnson, I think, is a really good guy to buy low on as well because obviously as the NFL season goes on, a very common trend over the course of all years is running backs getting hurt. And you may say, well, Kerryon Johnson's running back. I don't mean in the sense that Kerryon Johnson's going to get hurt. I mean maybe someone else gets hurt. Or even if they don't, Kerryon Johnson's really good in the touches they give him in the preseason, in the regular season, and he leads their team in the backfield. It's just a matter of it going up to the next step, and I think for what you could potentially get him for right now, for an impatient owner, maybe you could give up cookies for Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah.
And I think it's good to buy low on him.
You can go wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4.
I think he's worth that if you're skimp at running back. If you're skimp at running back, I think Kerryon Johnson's a great guy to take a chance on if you don't want to have to trade for, a starting caliber guy.
Yeah, and everybody has the guy in their league who's stacked up on running backs or stacked up on receivers. And those people are always nice to vulture on trades. If Kerryon Johnson just so happens to be on one of these teams that stacks running backs, scoop that up. That's valuable. Another buy low candidate that I have is Larry Fitzgerald.
Okay.
Larry Fitzgerald's...
Never argue against this.
The Cardinals are definitely something else on offense, but in Week 1, Larry Fitzgerald still had 7 receptions for 76 yards. And against the Rams, I'm going to give him the mulligan because it's the Rams. Anybody that goes against the Rams, I have to give the benefit of the doubt because the Rams might be the best defense in the NFL.
Yeah.
And people might be impatient seeing a team lose 34-0 and their number one receiver only have 3 receptions in that process.
The Cardinals' offense is not good.
No. I don't know what's going on there, man. I don't know what's going on with David Johnson. I don't know what's going on with Larry Fitzgerald.
David Johnson now, because when we had talked about this and said we want to do buy low, sell high candidates, the name David Johnson came to my mind immediately. Yeah. And I realized I don't even know what to do with David Johnson. I don't know whether if you have him to sell, to sell him as high as you can now or to buy him as low as you can. I mean, I guess both. But the thing with David Johnson is that offense is really bad. And just remember last year before the injury, their offense was also not good last year, and it's arguably better than it's looked this year. David Johnson, in that game he got hurt, the one game, he had 11 carries for 23 yards, and that was it.
No targets. He had 1 target. That's unacceptable. Granted, Steve Wilkes, the head coach of the Cardinals, for those who aren't aware, did come out and say that they were going to plan on using David Johnson more in the slot going forward, which is why I call him a buy low candidate, because...
Well, that was, to clarify, the stats I'd said weren't this past week's stats.
Oh, that was week 1?
No, that was like when he played last year. That was his game.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So even then he wasn't that good.
No, the Cardinals' offense isn't good, and he's been having a tough time. David Johnson, obviously a supreme talent, so I mean, that's one I guess you could buy low or sell high, just depending on whatever. If I had to put my money on something, now that I think about it, I'd probably buy low.
Yeah.
If someone was willing to give me... I just don't think anyone's willing to sell him low.
You can get it. I did a trade prior to the regular season, so I mean, it's a little... Yeah. We're talking about it now, but I did a trade in which I acquired David Johnson, and I definitely... It wasn't a buy low or a sell high. I mean, Christian McCaffrey was in the trade. I did wind up trading Christian McCaffrey, and I took the L on that one. But David Johnson has the upside that can make any trade worth it.
Yes.
If you don't give up too much...
Gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
Exactly, and David Johnson's one of these dudes.
David Johnson is a buttery biscuit, dude. How about other things? I'm trying to think. That was pretty much everyone I had.
I wanted to ask you. Yeah. On social media, on the Run the Gauntlet page, you were talking about Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
As if you were skeptical about Todd Gurley with his yards per carry. Is that something that you're concerned about?
It's something I've always been concerned about. I kind of like to run the storyline. I guess, okay, if we could put him in here, I didn't think about that. I wouldn't be pushed to say sell him high, but I do think it's worth noting, because obviously before last year, the year before that, he was incredibly inefficient.
Yeah.
To the point where it's like Todd Gurley, what happened last year, I mean, whoever got him, that was obviously the steal of the draft, because he was so bad the year before.
And he was slipping to the 3rd round.
Yeah, he was so bad the year before, but obviously his name's Todd Gurley, and I'm not saying Todd Gurley can't play. but maybe it's not the same thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, he got drafted with those guys, and I'm just saying, don't be blinded by last season if there's X amount of games strung together this year in which he's not what he was. Sell the name. I think at that point I would just give it some time because he's Todd Gurley. But I do think it's worth noting that before this year, no one was talking about him with guys like Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott, and stuff like that. Oh. So I just think it's he got drafted really high. His name holds a lot of value right now, as it should. It rightfully does, and a great offense. But listen, if he's inefficient on the ground, it's obviously he's going to be great in the receiving game regardless. I don't think there's any question about that. So he's always going to have value. I just think on the ground, if you could sell him as Le'Veon Bell per se when he was active, like if you could sell him as that guy and he's not, then it's worth doing it because that guy's the most valuable guy in fantasy football, and if he's not scoring the most points in fantasy football, you win if you sell him.
See, here's the thing with the number one scoring running back in fantasy football. Mm-hmm. The number one scoring running back in fantasy football has not repeated as the number one scoring running back in fantasy football since, I want to say it was Larry Johnson with the Chiefs. We're talking early 2000s here that number one RB has repeated as number one RB in back-to-back seasons. Yeah. So Todd Gurley will most likely not buck that trend because Kamara is far and away the number one back if you're doing PPR. Like it's actually a little bit ridiculous what Kamara's doing. Not even going to talk about him because he doesn't really fit into this conversation. He's just a man of his own beast at this point.
Yeah, well, that might be a little different when Mark Ingram comes back, but continuing what we were talking about.
Yeah, that's the thing with Gurley. That slightly concerns me. I am a Gurley owner in 2 leagues, so I'm going to ride that train until he gives me a reason to get off it.
Which you should. My point though is you should. I'm not. That's why when you tried to tie it into this, I was kind of like, I'm not sure about selling Gurley, but I'm just saying, yeah, the king's ransom that you would get if you see the game strung together. What I am telling you is that since 2 years ago, the writing has somewhat been on the wall. So don't be surprised if Todd Gurley more consistently than he did last year has a bad yards per carry.
Yeah, and you know what? If you're getting close to that Le'Veon Bell return date, which I project to be week 10 personally, I think we're going to get a full 10 weeks of James Conner. But that's just, that's my own personal opinion. I can't base that with any facts other than that's the deadline on his contract. Mm. If you could potentially around that time swing Gurley, like sell him really high and get Bell in a receiver, that's worth it. There is that really high upside in a trade. I want to leave that alone though moving forward because it's Todd Gurley. You play your studs.
Listen, if I had Todd Gurley, I probably wouldn't be thinking about trading him. I'm just saying it's something if as the weeks come.
Gotta think about.
Yeah. How about other week 2 highlights? Let me start off because guys, the Bears' defense is incredible. Really, really, really good. Like that's this year's Jaguars defense. Except the Jaguars are this year's Jaguars defense, but in the sense that
they
have shown they're here.
Yeah.
And Bears fans, that might be great news for you, but I'm sorry with Mitchell Trubisky. This ain't it, Chief. Mitchell Trubisky is not ready for what this team is. He is not a smart enough quarterback. I don't think he lacks the talent, the physical talent. But right now, I just don't think, from what I've seen out of Mitch Trubisky this season, that he is ready to lead this team. Why that's relevant to fantasy is that a lot of people were really high on the Bears' offense.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be down generally to the bare minimum of relevancy, which will probably be Jordan Howard and Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
I think that's where it's going to end. I think maybe Trey Burton will have touchdowns sometimes, but I think those guys are really going to be the only guys in the Bears' offense you could rely on. There was a lot of dudes getting valued in that offense this year.
Anthony Miller's been getting a couple red zone targets as well.
Yes, but he's not getting targets throughout the course of a game, so you have to rely on them. He did get targeted. He got the touchdown in that game. He was targeted before that in the end zone as well, which is worth noting, as I love Anthony Miller, obviously, but the target share is just not there. Mitchell Trubisky's stats are not there, and stats translate to fantasy football.
Yeah.
Not enough receivers are going to have enough stats on that team with him.
The thing with Trubisky, and I'm going to kind of get off fantasy for a quick moment here, folks.
Yep.
Mr. Trubisky is ready to be the future of a franchise. He is good enough for a team to rebuild around and say, you're our guy.
And wait for it to happen.
But he's not that guy yet. He's still a year or two away. But he's not a year or two away from being a year or two away like he was last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe he is. I mean, who knows? I'm just saying that it's not. I don't think it's going to be this year with Trubisky. That's where I'm at with that. It could be next year. It could never happen. Who knows? You never know with quarterbacks. Sometimes there's plenty of guys that were supposed to do something that's never quite come into it. Josh Freeman comes to mind.
I'd personally like to tailspin this into Blake Bortles.
Mm-hmm.
Now, folks, if you watched Football at 4:25 on Sunday, there was a rematch of the AFC Championship game on television. But by the looks of that game, you would not think that was an AFC Championship game. The reason I say you would not recognize that game as an AFC Championship game rematch is because one quarterback looked 100 times better than he did the year before. The other guy was Tom Brady. The guy I'm referring to is Blake Bortles.
Well, I'll give you that he actually had a great stretch at the end of the season last year. And I thought played really well in the Patriots game in the AFC Championship as well.
Dude, Blake Bortles...
Terrible week 1 versus the Giants.
Yes, that was unfortunate. Blake Bortles definitely... He has a lot of kinks that he has to work out. Very similar... I always compare Blake Bortles to Ben Roethlisberger. Here's my thing with Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles is probably the best red zone quarterback in the NFL. Blake Bortles, the Jacksonville Jaguars offense, in 23 drives in the red zone, 21 have been touchdowns, 2 have been field goals. They have not once not gotten points in the red zone. Last season in the NFL playoffs, the top 3, in the NFL, in the regular season as a whole, the top 3 red zone offenses in the NFL were the Jaguars, the Patriots, and the Eagles. I don't think I need to tell you how the Patriots and the Eagles season ended last season.
When you say he is perhaps the best red zone quarterback in the NFL, I propose to you the question.
Yeah.
You would trust Blake Bortles on a red zone possession to save your life before 17 different quarterbacks in the NFL?
Yeah.
How about 12?
Yeah. No, he's top 6. Particularly in the AFC.
Top 6 in the AFC.
For top 6 in the AFC, there are a couple teams in the NFC that I can think of that are, there's obviously Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson and Tom Brady, of course. There are a couple teams that, of course, you would obviously rather have them. But let me throw some statistics out for you. In 2017, Blake Bortles was 32 for 60 with 250 yards in the red zone. His completion percentage was slightly over 50. Pro Football Reference gave the statistics of 13 smart throwaways in the red zone. That's basically the same thing as not making it. That's almost better in the red zone that you don't make that mistake. This is why.
Absolutely.
That's literally... I'm going to count those as completions for the sake of making my argument.
Okay.
That's 45 for 60 positive plays in the red zone. To put that in perspective, Matt Ryan completed 46% of his passes in the red zone that season. Alex Smith, 44. Cam Newton, 46. Those are 3 quarterbacks I know for sure.
And how much did Blake Bortles complete again?
He completed over 50.
Okay.
In 2016, he completed 42 of 72, 285 yards, with 58% completion percentage in the red zone. If you, over the past 3 seasons, this man is a top 5 quarterback when you factor in touchdowns per attempt, touchdown ratio in the red zone, and completion percentage in the red zone, Blake Bortles is top 5. The man's been in the league 5 years, and he was on the Jaguars when they were 3-13. He has the 3rd highest average yards per carry in NFL history for a quarterback.
That is a fluff stat that barely has anything to do with him as a quarterback, but...
Absolutely not. You see how many times he scrambles for first downs? Blake Bortles is a warrior in that regard, man. That guy probably averages a respectable amount of carries in the red zone. I don't know that stat for sure, but I've seen it.
Okay. So all these points, these are facts that you've put in front of my face. I'm a facts type of guy.
Yeah.
But there are 6 quarterbacks. It's a hierarchy.
Yes.
And what you propose is that Blake Bortles is a part of it.
He is the 2nd best quarterback in the AFC East.
South.
He is... Honestly, I'll give him 2nd best in the AFC South.
Over Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. Luck, Bortles, Watson. As it stands right now in their respective careers.
Okay.
AFC North, I'd say he's better than Dalton.
Okay.
And obviously better than Tyrod Taylor. I don't like Joe Flacco. He's 2nd best in the AFC North.
Better than Joe Flacco? Joe Flacco is basically just a more accomplished Blake Bortles.
Nah, man. Joe Flacco has had a lot more to work with in his career than Blake Bortles.
Okay.
And Blake Bortles and his team is a lot closer to a Super Bowl than Joe Flacco and his team. Team success matters because...
Yeah, the Jaguars are just a more talented roster than the
But
Ravens.
he's an excellent game manager.
Okay. Top 6 in the AFC. Continue.
In the AFC West, he's better than Keenum.
Okay. I feel like you would have said that coming into the season.
Yeah. No, I've been a fan of Bortles for a couple seasons now.
I don't feel like you would have called him better than Keenum coming into this season, but...
No, I would.
I'm not even taking a side as to whether he is or isn't. I'm just...
I don't know, man. This game, I am officially sold on Bortles. I have no problem coming out and saying this. Because, what did I say? He's the second best in the South.
Who's above him?
In no particular order, Brady, Luck, Rivers, Roethlisberger, and I guess that would be a three-way tie with Bortles, Watson, and Carr. But I give Bortles the edge over those three.
Over those three?
Yes. I have Andy Dalton on the outside looking in after that.
I think Dalton is definitely better than Bortles. I would rather have, for one season, I'd rather have Joe Flacco than Blake Bortles. I'm still on that train. I'd rather have Joe Flacco right now than Blake Bortles. There's not that much of a difference. I think when you're starting to get into the Joe Flaccos, there's no way you can finish in the top 6.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you threw some stats in front of my face. I don't know. I'm not sold.
Blake Bortles, man, if you take away the horrible embarrassment that was the beginning of his career because he was on a team that was compared to the Cleveland Browns as the worst team in football, he has made good things happen for a really bad franchise, right?
The defense has made them happen. The amount of talent they get him at receiver.
He didn't have that talent before Allen Robinson. And what did he do once he got talent? 35 touchdowns, 18 interceptions, 4,000 plus
the year
yards.
before that, he had Robinson and Hearns. And
They were young bloods, man. They were just coming into the league. They were in full rebuild mode.
Well, no, I was just contesting that you said he didn't have him, and I said he did. That's all.
But they weren't the same player yet. They weren't what they were. Like, Blake Bortles has had, in his career, including this season, 95 touchdowns in 5 seasons. I know that's only 20 per, and that's not really that impressive. But when you take into account the Jaguars' actual level of talent for the first half of Blake Bortles' career, and the amount of times that guy was just throwing for the sake of they're down by 3 touchdowns because the defense couldn't stop a nosebleed until they fired Gus Bradley.
How ironic.
Right? Like, this guy, he was obviously just riding the coattails of Pete Carroll's defense in Seattle. I mean, that guy was the biggest... That guy was a freaking hoax. One of the bigger hoaxes in...
These will work.
Yeah. Some of these guys, man, they just... Defense coordinators are weird. You're on a successful team, you get a head coaching job.
We're probably not going to see eye to eye with Bortles there. I'm going to be honest with you. But...
Don't be surprised if in the next 3 years the Jaguars win a Super Bowl with Blake Bortles a quarterback.
Okay. The other thing I thought was pretty crazy that happened this week was that has 2 straight weeks that Juju Smith has had more targets, more receptions, more yards, a touchdown when Antonio Brown did not. He is outperforming Antonio Brown to this point in the season. 2-game sample size. I know we don't want to overreact. Just same thing with Patrick Mahomes, but Juju Smith-Schuster, I mean, he's probably benefiting from Antonio Brown being on the other side. This was something I didn't think could happen coming into the season, and if this continues to happen, those Juju people definitely got the biggest steal of the draft.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Juju Smith has completely exceeded expectations in his sophomore season. There was no wall. He has just hit the floor, and he has been running the whole time, man. I think Antonio Brown, with these recent rumors and allegations of him wanting to be traded, will just come out.
Which I don't fully believe.
No. I mean, his agent released a statement today saying that it was kind of BS. So Antonio Brown's going to be rather angry. And Antonio Brown might have 3 touchdowns this week. I think, now that there's been some questioning of Antonio Brown will want to prove that there's no need for this questioning. As this is what the best ones do. They remind you why they're the best once you start thinking they're not the best.
Precisely. Let's see. We'd already talked about David Johnson. That was one of my big takeaways from this week. I just think that that's a situation that I wouldn't say hit the panic button just yet, but the Cardinals' offense is really bad. This is a big one. This week proved it, and Dalvin Cook hasn't even gotten started yet. The Vikings' offense, just as I had thought, is going to be the most lucrative offense in fantasy football this year, guys. If you didn't listen to me then, just listen to me now. You just saw it. This isn't going to stop with the Vikings' offense. I'm telling you that right now.
No.
Not a chance. Kirk Cousins, for whatever you want to say about him as a quarterback, statistically, you cannot argue against Kirk Cousins even once. And fantasy football, while an extension of real football, is also the stats. And Kirk Cousins is loaded with them. He's loaded with guys around him that are guaranteed to get stats because he's the quarterback. Even if he wasn't the quarterback, Case Keenum was the quarterback. This is going to be something else, I think, in Minnesota this year offensively. I'm not sure if it's going to translate to a deep playoff run or anything like that, but I think in terms of people who bought a piece of that cake, that's good stuff.
Yeah, Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins was literally so obvious that people second-guessed it because it was that obvious. Stephon Diggs, the talent is undeniable there. Kyle Rudolph has even been effective, getting a touchdown and 6 receptions. He's always going to be fantasy relevant. Even when he didn't do anything.
He actually had 7 receptions for 70-something yards.
Was it 7?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the touchdown was the week before, but he might have had a touchdown this week.
Yeah, but that touchdown saved... I'm a Kyle Rudolph owner. That touchdown saved us week 1. That's
how it happens with tight ends sometimes.
Yeah. You just got to take the good with the bad, and sometimes the bad is just a 1 touchdown, 4-yard performance. But Kyle Rudolph will still be good for that with Kirk Cousins.
Absolutely.
And if he's not good for that, he'll be good for 7 receptions for 70 yards like we just saw.
Maybe he gets 100. Who knows?
And they got such a juicy matchup with the Bills, man. Dalvin Cook is my DFS play of the week, bro. I'm working all of my lineups around having him in some way, shape, or form.
Against the Bills.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Dalvin Cook.
Don't get me wrong, I love me some Josh Allen, but they are not good enough to make that a competitive game more than 2 quarters, and they'll just do what Melvin Gordon did, and they will run the ball all game. And Dalvin Cook and Latavius Murray will feast.
Yeah, or they could throw it to Dalvin Cook, too. And that's what I think is so amazing about him is that he fits that mold of the current NFL running back where he's just as dangerous doing both.
Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of the receiving game, we had brought this up preseason. We weren't the only ones on the train, but some people thought other things. Keelan Cole, here it is. That's not going to stop.
No,
I don't think that's going to stop because Blake Bortles is whatever I want to say about him. I maintain this. Blake Bortles is definitely good enough to support one receiver. And that guy would be Keelan Cole throughout the course of the season.
What about D.D. Westbrook?
I think in PPR formats he can, but standard, I think Keelan Cole will be the only one consistently good throughout the year.
Okay. No. That's a fair argument.
Yeah. D.D. Westbrook, I think, still holds relevance because at the end of the day, receivers are receivers. I think he can support 2 receivers, but only one really good one that you're going to use consistently. And I think that's Keelan Cole this year. That catch.
That was disgusting, man.
That wasn't even the touchdown catch, no less, which was also
very impressive.
Nice little toe tap and grab right there. Little drag of the foot. Gotta love it. Keelan Cole's really, really good. This is why they knew they could lose Allen Hurns and Allen Robinson. This had just about everything to do with it. Along with the fact they had D.D. Westbrook. They drafted Chark in the 2nd round.
They brought in Safarian Jenkins, who's a nice tight end option.
Very nice tight end option. Very obvious tight end option. And I'm surprised more people didn't come around on that one because...
Something happened last year, man.
Yeah.
Safarian Jenkins got slept on.
That's what happens. He had a very slow start to his career. I guess he's one of those guys with a stigma that you were talking about earlier in the show.
Yeah, man. I don't know about you, but I think we've covered a lot of topics here. I think Week 2 is more of an indication of what we will see for the regular season than Week 1. And I hope we brought value to you guys. I hope you hear this stuff, and I hope you take it. And I hope, number one, first and foremost, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you had fun listening to us, joining us, and I hope you learned something.
That's our goal every week, is to teach you guys something about fantasy football. Even if we're not right about every guy, what's important is that you take the mentality that we have with fantasy football away from here and apply it to what you do throughout the season. It'll make you a much better player.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, we are Run the Gauntlet. I am Jimmy LeBeau.
I'm Justin O'Firo.
As always, Game Changer Sports Network. Check us out. We should be having some episodes posted on their website soon. We should be obviously doing some Facebook stuff on Sunday. We are going to the Eagles-Colts game in Philadelphia, so expect some live reaction stuff there. We can't show you the games because we do not have the express consent of the NFL. But, there's a lot of Philly cheesesteaks and there's a lot of fan bases, and it's a very interesting fan base. So
yeah, definitely follow Run the Gauntlet's Facebook page for some fun posts about that game.
Yeah, guys. Hey, guys. Have a good night. Be safe.
And the next time you'll be hearing this Colts fan and this Jets fan talking next to each other will be this Sunday at that game, guys. So peace out. Thanks for listening. Secret track.
All
All right, guys. So we're going to end this off real fast just by talking about some deeper waiver wire pickups for you guys. Thanks for sticking around through the outro music. Look what you get for it, a little treat. Okay, so how about some deep waiver guys for this week that you're a fan of?
My number one deep waiver option, he was my number one deep waiver option coming into the season, is James Washington of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Very good.
Love the dude. He's extremely talented, great offense. It's just, he hasn't clicked yet. He got a touchdown last week. So I'm excited for it, and he's obviously always going to be my deep waiver wire guy. Do you have anybody else?
I think a good guy to mention real fast is Willie Snead. He is the forgotten receiver right now in Baltimore and is actually outpacing John Brown in targets. Worth picking up. He's a guy who might be there after Wednesday.
Yeah.
And that is definitely a big deal. The Ravens throw the football a lot.
I think two other deep waiver wire options to consider are Deontay Thompson on the Dallas Cowboys. He had 5 targets last night on Sunday Night Football. And Terrell Pryor of the New York Jets with 8 targets and 4 receptions for 84 yards in their loss to Miami.
I think one to bring up, trying to be completely unbiased, is Chester Rogers. Ryan Grant did not live up to it in week 2, which means, hey guys, from what I know, now it's still up for grabs. Basically, until a guy strings together some weeks, there's nothing official in that wide receiver 2 spot in Indianapolis. And Chester Rogers, hey, you'll have a free spot on your bench, super deep league. Go ahead, put him there, see if he gets good.
Yeah, there's a couple other players to mention. You have Mr. Murphy on the Buffalo Bills. He's a running back. He might replace Shady McCoy if Shady McCoy can't play through the pain of the cracked ribs. Mm-hmm. You have Jalen Richard on the Oakland Raiders in PPR leagues. And another deep sleeper, LeGarrette Blount in a revenge game against the New England Patriots.
Tyler Boyd, I think, is a good guy to be picking up at wide receiver. Not sure if anyone's going to take a chance on him this week, but hey, if you're super stacked, have the last spot on your bench reserved for something you don't need, and you could just keep that on a cycle nonstop, Tyler Boyd's a cool receiver to take a chance on. He's actually working over John Ross right now as the number 2 receiver on that team.
Yo, dude, anything that's a 14 or a 16 team league with a deep bench, these guys are pretty relevant waiver wire options right now. Oh. Zay Jones, that man Josh Allen with the howitzer on his right shoulder. Zay Jones had the 60-yard reception already. He had one in the preseason. Zay Jones is a deep threat and a half with Josh Allen at quarterback, folks. He is a deep sleeper.
All right, guys, this has gone off long enough right now. We have to keep it hidden. It's a secret track. So, shh,
don't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody this was here.